So, Valve's loving interpretation of the Mark 18 comes in the form of the M4A4 in Counterstrike Global Offensive. The rifle first appears in 2012 release as the main assault rifle for the counter-terrorists. It's a cool rifle, but what exactly is the M4A4? I mean, there is no real-life designation for the A4, so the only reference we have is based off the in-game model. The M4A4 clearly shows a kind of quad rail with a round barrel nut, front sight post, an A.R.M.S rear sight, weird-looking SOPMOD stock, and a generic Mil-Std component for everything else. When the game re-released in 2023, Valve had updated all the objects in the game, and of course, one of them being the M4A4. The new updated models gave us a lot more info to work with, as the ambiguous details were fully fleshed out on the rifle. The parts list for the newly updated model is simple. It's a SOPMOD Mark 18 Mod 0 with some nice armament swag, CQD mounts to make everything simultaneously look cool, but also unreasonably expensive. Ironically making the $2,900 in-game price tag pretty accurate to real life thanks to the handguard being made of pure unobtainium. Looking at the recent model, starting at the muzzle and working our way down, we immediately identify the Knight's M4 QD flash hider, which sits on some sort of peel or crush washer. And substitute, I have a generic A2 birdcage, because the silencer I already own isn't compatible with this muzzle device, and I don't feel like doing another Form 4. Going down, we have the iconic 10.3 M4 profile barrel. This one happens to be a Daniel Defense. The front sight gas block, complete with the bayonet lug, sling swivel, and the start of the show, the M4 free-floated Knight's Armament RAS handguard. This is actually the same handguard design used in the Mark 12, but this one in particular is just a special 7-inch version of it. When I first thought of doing this clone back in 2019, I thought I really could get away with cutting down a Mark 12 handguard to avoid scalpers, but a friend warned me that he had already tried doing this, and it wouldn't look quite right. I didn't end up chopping the handguard because the exposed vent hole would have kept me up at night, which you can see here. These vent holes wouldn't have lined up correctly, and there would have been a gap and a crater right here. I would not have liked it. In the game, you can clearly see that the handguard is mostly covered by the Knight's Armament rail panels, with exceptions being the bottom and the left-hand side, which has the close quarters defense forward sling mount on the 9 o'clock. Interestingly enough, the gun shows a rail panel in front of the forward sling mount with the locking tab facing the user. This is kind of a problem because there's no cutout on the Picatinny rail section for the locking tab to hold onto. So if you put any sliding pressure on the rail panel, it would freely slide forward. The upper receiver is a generic M4 flat top with an A.R.M.S number 40 standalone rear sight. This is actually a really cool sight. It's deployed through positive spring pressure and held in the forward position from that very same spring. Although much larger compared to modern rear sights, I find the actual usability of this rear sight to be pretty good for what it is. I like it so much that I bought several other low profile versions for my other carbines. Other parts of the upper receiver is just standard Mil-Std. This includes the charging handle, forward assist, dust cover, and bolt carry group. Although we can't directly see the bolt carry group in the game, I'm going to take an educated guess and assume that's a standard Mil-Std one. The devs never really animated the dust cover or modeled the bolt carrier group, so you have them to blame for that. Moving on to the lower receiver, it's very straightforward. The lower has M4 Carbine engraved on it, but it omits manufacturer logos or markings. I'm going to guess that's for royalty or legal reasoning. It looks entirely Mil-Std with nothing of really to note other than the receiver endplate and stock. I didn't choose this lower receiver for any particular reason, I just already had it on hand. The receiver endplate is the close quarters defense rear sling mount, which proudly shows itself off, reminding you of better times like soft incandescent bulbs, surge energy drinks, and the time you memorized the lyrics to All-Star. You know, the same time we used to think that these things were actually a good idea. The endplate allows you to put hook-style sling attachments on either side, making it pretty friendly for wrong-headed users. I thought I would hate this endplate at first, but the radius bend and beveled edges does a fantastic job with preventing irritation. I don't even notice it most times, but in today's world with quick detached sling mounts being the norm, the older style of sling mounting is much less popular now. The receiver extension and castle nut is just normal Mil-Std. So let's move on to the venerable SOPMOD stock. Some love and others hate it for valid reasons, but I've always liked this stock. And with that, we can conclude the rifle build. One small thing to note is that the M4A4 doesn't have an auto sear pin above the safety selector. Valve, you're hurting me. The rifle is simple, all things considered, and I love the little details going on with it, and that's pretty cool. Shooting guns in video games will probably never translate one-to-one to how guns feel in real life, but whenever I use the M4A4 in-game, it does feel good. I like how they replicated the amount of muzzle flash the short barrel puts out, which is pretty accurate to the real world, even though it's almost invisible during daylight. As for shooting the M4A4 in real life, there's nothing really to comment on other than it shoots really soft, thanks to the standardized gas port. For the uninitiated, the Mark 18 is the evolved version of the CQBR program. CQBR stands for the Close Quarters Battle Receiver. It was initially requested by the United States Navy to fit size constraints aboard vessels because MP5s weren't cutting it anymore. The military basically got an M4 Carbine, chopped the barrel down as short as it can go, and then opened up the gas port to make it more reliable. Hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money was then spent on research to make it more reliable. And eventually we got something so hot and sexy that it created the tactical Timmy singularity across the globe. Overall, I'm happy with how this build came out. I wish the handguard wasn't so expensive. If it weren't for a good friend of mine, this clone and by nature this video would not have been possible. Even though the M4A1S is probably the better gun, I still use the A4 because nothing feels better than the ego peak cat with the A4 and actually survive. Well, that wraps up everything for this video. I don't know if this channel name will change in the future or if I'll make any more videos, but I did really enjoy making this one. I might make a video on my favorite assault rifle from Left 4 Dead 2, but that depends. Thank you, and God bless.